College football has changed their tone on Deion Sanders and Colorado. Where do we see them ranking now? How good are they now that we just saw them beat number 17 TCU?
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or enter promo code LockedOnCollege for a free water bottle with any purchase. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off, we promise you. Joining me today, Raymond Lucas Jr. of 24/7 Sports. We're going to be talking about the impact on the culture, the country, just college football in general that Colorado beating TCU had. We're going to be talking about how this changes everyone's view of Colorado and Coach Prime. And then we're going to look ahead to this week, Nebraska. So Raymond, without further ado, how does this impact kind of change how people, or what does this impact mean for Colorado? Let's go there first.
I think it changes a whole lot, and that'd be an understatement. I think whether it's the transfer portal, or whether it's high school recruiting, whether it's just perception around the program, everything changed over the course of an afternoon because, like Deion Sanders or Coach Prime kept saying, after the win is that now you believe, or do you believe? And now those transfers who are maybe, I'd love to go play for Coach Prime, but I don't know, what to expect overnight. Now they believe and they see the results. And even though people are saying, it's just one win, but one win against a team that you're a 20-point underdog against, one win with all of the criticism they had leading up to the game, to go into that type of environment, win on the road, and do it in a way where you didn't need a lucky bounce or you didn't need a fluke. And maybe they should have won by more if special teams was better or if they take care of the ball. So it just changes everything. It changes the way people view Colorado because now they see that everything that Coach Prime was doing, although they were taking it as a gimmick, it was very real. And I think that was evident in the discipline of the team and their focus, their mentality. Like Coach Prime, he went viral for the press conference and everyone was saying, win with class and do this and that. But if you look at the actual on-field product, that's exactly what Colorado did. They won with class. There was no
skirmishes, no.
Yeah, none of that. No, there was like the late hit on the quarterback, but that wasn't an emotion-based penalty. I think it was just a bang-bang play. Yeah. But when it comes to like the things with emotion, none of that was there. And that was probably the most impressive thing about the victory to me. And I think it changed the way people view things, not only players and fans and media, but also parents, because they see Dylan Edwards fumbles and he's being comforted on the sideline by Coach Prime while other coaches would be ripping into this player and taking his confidence away. So there was a lot on display in just one game. It was huge for Colorado.
I would say it impacted a lot. And one thing I think it will impact, which I'm going to cover us up with the graphic right here, Locked On released our top 25 poll. And as you can see, for the first time, probably ever, I don't know how long they've been doing this without Colorado not being in it, but Colorado comes in at number 20. I think that is one of the more important things to talk about as well, is Colorado's going to jump into this top 25. They're below teams like Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Oregon State, Kansas State, and they're ahead of teams like Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Duke, Tulane, and Kentucky. So Raymond, obviously the win, which they're going to release the AP poll probably by the time we're finished recording. Matt Rule said, Nebraska's coach, which we'll talk about Nebraska later, he said that maybe Colorado's in the top 10, maybe they're a top 15 team. Where do you see them kind of falling in the rankings, and what does them being ranked ahead of this Nebraska do for, like, how does that impact Colorado? Does it build more confidence, or are they just confident already? Who cares?
I think I could see them between the 18 to 25 range. If I was going to make that a little concise, it'd be the 18 to 20 range. I feel like it's comfortable because obviously we don't know what they are ranked in the preseason poll, like where they fell at outside of the top 25. But that kind of goes out the window when it's a week one game because all of that is really speculation. Like, it's not like this is a midseason win over a top 25 team where they jump from like 70 to into the top 25. Like, it's week one. Like, everything's kind of just can change dramatically. Like, I think we'll see Clemson fall significantly. I don't even know if they'll be ranked after their loss to Duke. So I think if I had to guess, I'd go 19 or 20. I'd be surprised if they're outside of the top 25 because I think if you take everything away, all of the narratives, and you just look at it as just from the football view, this is a team that went in there and they beat the number 17th ranked team in the nation on the road. And they did it in a way that they had these spectacular performances from their quarterback, Deion Sanders, from skill players like Dylan Edwards, from Travis Hunter, and all of that. There's no reason to believe that that's something that's not going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think looking at it from that view, it's hard to have them. Like, I'd be shocked if they were outside of the top 25.
I think there'd be riots. I don't know where the AP headquarters are, but there'd be riots.
That'd be like insane. But I don't think they'll go higher than 18 because there wasn't a ton of upsets, so there wasn't a lot of room for movement. But I like that. I like that right inside the top 20 range. That's comfortable with me. And
I think your dog liked it too. He was happy with the 18 there.
It shook everything up. The dog's going crazy.
Yeah, going crazy.
What a win! But
yeah, it was a crazy win. Honestly, I think the impact goes beyond just like rankings as well. I think people are gonna, which we'll talk about this when we talk about the changing of the view. But just to kind of dive into that a little bit, I think people will have respect for Colorado now. I think this gives Colorado some much needed respect. I think going into the season, we saw people treat them as if they were kind of like an expansion team in like the NBA or like an expansion team in the NFL, where it's like they're just they have a couple good guys, but it's like they're just gonna Colorado. They're gonna get blown out by TCU. TCU made it to the championship. I kept making the point prior to the game. I was like, TCU lost as many players as Colorado did. They lost a lot of players. Obviously, they lost players to the NFL and stuff, but you still lose players. Doesn't matter why they left, whether they were asked to leave or whether they chose to leave. So I think that's a huge impact as well. And realistically, I don't think people realize this, but you can't let Coach Prime get hot. You can't let a Coach Prime led team get hot because then they're just going to stay hot. And that's kind of college football's biggest worry. And if I was the Pac-12, like schools like USC, who's been giving up 21 points per game to Mountain West programs, I'd be a little worried that Colorado could keep up blow for blow offensively. Defensively, I think if their defensive line could have made like 3 plays, they probably win that game by 10, 15 points. Yeah. They were getting gashed by the run game. But the impact of the win, huge. Colorado's trending in the right direction. Excited to see where it goes. I need you guys to know that this episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by Bird Dogs. Let me pull up our nice little graphic here. Bird Dogs. They make you look good. They have stretch khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs fix this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric. It looks just like khaki but stretches, so you get a way slimmer fit. Me personally, I wear them. You can wear them to dinner. I've worn them to play softball. You can wear them just about everywhere. They're a hybrid short that can kind of do a little bit of everything. You're going to look good no matter what. So go to birddogs.com/lockedon or enter a promo code lockedon at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedon for a free water bottle at your order. It's Locked On Buffs, by the way. You don't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. Actually, the code is Locked On College. Excuse me. So go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Okay, Raymond, let's dive right back into it. How this win changes the view of Colorado and Coach Prime. I think heading into the season, they treated Coach Prime like he was a shyster, I guess you could say. Like he was just kind of like a face that was making a lot of noise, that wasn't really a respectable head coach, as if he didn't just dominate at the FCS level. But now he's doing it at the Power 5 level. So how do people view Coach Prime now? Because obviously he just beat a top 17 team on the road as 3 touchdown underdogs.
I'd imagine other coaches probably view him as a threat. As we were talking about earlier with the recruiting aspect of and the transfer portal aspect of things, it's for them to go and for them to win that game and for them to look as good as they did. It not only shows that he knows what he's doing as far as building a roster, but he knows what he's doing as far as building a coaching staff. And when a coach can do those 2 things successfully, it leads to a really, really bright future. And I think it brings more attention to the program, and more attention comes with more recruits. And Colorado whether it was the new uniforms, whether it was their social media team, whether it was the behind the scenes guys on the sideline, they did everything right on Saturday. There was nothing that they did wrong, and recruits definitely took notice. I mean, my mother, who doesn't even really watch college football, she was texting me during the game, and so the attention that he attracts is just absolutely incredible. And so I'd say other coaches view him as a threat, probably fans of other schools, like top schools. I'm sure they feel the same way. But overall, I think now people are believing in the statements that he was saying and his mission plan that he kept expressing during the summer of, we don't care about down the road. We don't care about a year from now. We care about winning right now. And everyone was saying, well, you're not going to win right now, myself included. I mean, I didn't have them losing. I mean, I didn't have them winning like 2 games like other people had them, but definitely they could exceed expectations, I think, set by everybody except for maybe those betting on them to win a national championship.
Right.
And I think it's, for some, they were doubting Coach Prime. I think others, they were doubting the transfer portal method, and to be able to bring that many new players in and mesh them, no matter how talented they are, to do it that quick is just something that we haven't really seen in college football. And so he not only changes the way you can succeed if you're a first-year head coach trying to build a roster, but I think he just changes everything. He changes how people look at those players at the HBCU schools that are putting up big numbers, and now people can't just say, "Oh, it's HBCU." They can't, it's nothing, because Shedeur Sanders, he put up big numbers, and then his first Power 5 game, he has his best game of his career. And so
he said that was the best most yards he's ever thrown for. And
yeah, so it was, and he made it look easy, I think, was the craziest thing. Like, it wasn't, dare I say, lucky plays like we've seen Johnny Manziel or someone have in the past, where it's just, you just throw it up and someone comes down with it. It was everything. Even the deep ball on 3rd and 16 to Travis Hunter in the 4th quarter, perfect pass. Like, there's nothing, just throw it up and pray. It's everything is just, what he did was spot on and accurate and precise. So it changes a whole lot. And I think going into this Nebraska game, the hype is going to be dramatically different than we've seen from TCU, because people were like, okay, I want to watch them get crushed. And now people are like, well, can they actually go and, go 2-0?
Yeah, I like that. I like that point, because I think, especially when I was making appearances on all the other shows, they were asking me about this week 1 game. They're like, okay, how much does Colorado lose by? Or how much, will Colorado be competitive? And I was like, they're for sure going to be competitive. Like, that's not a question. I didn't know that they were going to win. I'm not going to pretend like I knew they were going to beat TCU. This was one of my projected losses. I had them going 6-6, and then I had them beating Nebraska week 2. But I like the point that you made about how it threatens other coaches. I'm going to add on to that after I bring this part up about the college football live kickoff each Friday on Locked On. So if you want to tune in and watch all the updates and all of the kind of entertainment you need, college football season is here, and the season Locked On is kicking up. Our Locked On college football kickoff live each Friday will go on live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, every Locked On College YouTube channel. College football kickoff live will cover every playoff implication, the conference rivalry games, and go in depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football kickoff live every Friday at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, or any Locked On College YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it, so go to my Locked On channel. It'll be on there. 11 a.m. Mountain Time, I believe, is, I don't know, I'm not going to do the math. Either way, you guys could convert that math for yourself. I'm in Pacific Standard, the best time, I think. But we were talking about kind of the threat that he poses, because recruiting-wise, we've seen Coach Prime go out there. He's got Cormani McClain. He's got Travis Hunter. But those are like signature recruits. Those are like big recruits. But we've also seen him lose some close ones like Florida State, LSU. Now, if I'm another coach recruiting-wise and a recruit lists Colorado in their top 5, I am terrified. I am petrified, because you never know what Coach Prime's what kind of trick he's gonna have up his sleeve. I feel like he's kind of he's a wild card in all aspects of college football. And 2, on the field, I think people knew that Colorado would be good eventually. Like you talked about next year, the year after, people were saying that's when they'd be good. But now, after 1 week, we kind of believe that they will be at least competitive this year. I think this year, this was kind of like a projected, they'll be okay. They're going to be better than 1-11. but they're not going to be like a threat. And now I think every team should be threatened by them. I think every time someone comes to Boulder or Colorado goes somewhere else, that teams would probably be a little shaky about, oh, we got to be careful here because this Colorado team is not to be played with. What do you think is, I guess you said they're already a threat, but what is kind of what is your overall view on Colorado now? Like, how did it change after 1 week? Because I think not just you specifically, but I think Colorado, everybody has a different tone about them now. We have a newly found respect, one might say.
Yeah, I think for sure. The general perception, I think everybody's like, okay, this program, it's here to stay. It's going to be really good if he can get things going. But to me, I think the first thing I thought of is, okay, this program is going to go to the Big 12 next year. And the Big 12 didn't have the strongest week one. It's a conference that I feel like it's not being talked about enough. Maybe it's my Pac-12 bitterness, but I think this conference, I think it takes a significant drop in quality when Texas and Oklahoma leave. And, that's not a shot at the Big 12. I think it's just you don't have those two heavyweights. And when you don't have those two heavyweights, it helps all the teams in the Big 12. Like everyone's it creates more balance and there's a new team that can break through. But overall, just looking at the conference, you're not looking at the Big 12 and saying, oh, this team is going to come out and they're always going to be this threat in college football. But now it feels like Colorado can be. And
Colorado might be the face of the Big 12 eventually.
Exactly. And so they're going to go to a Big 12 conference who it feels like, at least right now, if we had to project things moving forward, that Utah is going to be the top dog in the Big 12 in the future. And how much longer does Kyle Whittingham have at Utah? Like, how long does he stay around? And when he retires, what happens to Utah? Are they still the same program? And furthermore, if you give Colorado time, there's no reason to believe that this program can't surpass Utah. Because the one thing about Colorado that really stood out to me is they were really physical against TCU. And that's how Utah has been able to win the Pac-12, and that's how they've rose. And so if Colorado gets to the point where they can match Utah's physicality, we know which team is going to have the better skill players. We know who's going to have the better cornerbacks as long as Coach Prime is there. Because his recruiting, what he can do in recruiting is something that I don't think any team in the Big 12 can match, the future Big 12 can match.
Right.
And so this is a team who we could see in the college football playoff regularly if things go according to plan. I think this game against Nebraska, win or lose, I think as long as they show up and they play really good, it still helps that program's momentum because people will say, oh, they lost to Nebraska, but that environment was amazing. And recruits, they don't care if Colorado loses to Nebraska. They're thinking about what they can do at Colorado. It's like Florida when you talk to there was an article I was reading about Florida recruits reacting to the Utah game. It's not like they're going to have some big reaction. They're just like, oh, okay, well, there's work to be done, but we're going to come to this program and try to do that. And so as long as Colorado continues to do everything right, and winning games helps, but as long as, the marketing and the visibility, and we know Folsom Field is going to be packed, that's a given.
Oh, yeah.
As long as they continue to do that, this program just continues to move upwards, and that's what winning week one does. You get that big win out the way early, and everything else comes easy. So I think newfound respect, definitely, and I think it entirely shifted what the future of Colorado looks like. And I'm sure there's going to be people that are doubters that are going to find this link and they're going to be like, oh, all of this after one win, but it's deeper than that. It's not just a 1-0 record.
Yeah, no, I talked about it on yesterday's show, and we clipped it and posted on my social media, and I said this is one of the bigger wins in college football history, and people were like, this isn't App State over Michigan, this isn't App State over Texas A&M, and it's like, okay, I guess not, but I'm like, it's up there. Realistically, you have to look at the whole scheme. You have to look at how Colorado was treated. Just days before the first game, his name is slipping my mind. The guy from ESPN, Tom Luganville, whatever his name is. He said that Colorado's roster was the worst in college football, was worse than UMass's roster, who, if you read any like 24/7 or CBS, The Athletic, when they do their 100 or their 1 through 133 rankings, UMass is 133, 99.9% of the time. It's no shot at UMass, but they're consistently the worst program. They have a younger program. They're trying to build it up. He said that Colorado's program was worse than UMass. This offseason, coaches were saying that the transfer report, like college coaches were saying that this isn't going to work. He's going to crash and burn. They were 20.5-point underdogs. They were on the road against a team who, which I've already seen this narrative kind of start. TCU was not supposed to be that good, apparently, but they were a top 17 team that just are fresh off a championship appearance. This is a huge win. I think comparing it to other games is kind of like a thief of joy. We always say comparison's a thief of joy out here. Stop trying to find like, Louisiana Monroe beat Alabama. Yeah, there's going to be games where like smaller schools, group of 5 programs or FCS programs upset a Power 5 program. But none of them had the implications that this one did. I don't think there's ever been a program where one individual, Coach Prime, if you didn't know, was counted on to fail as much as he has been. I think people wanted to see him fail. I think people thought it'd be funny. There'd be memes. There'd be like see, he's not as good as he thinks he is. And so I think that's kind of my big takeaway. And so I still think it's one of the bigger wins in college football history. A Power 5 team beating a Power 5 team isn't, when you think about it in that manner, you're like, oh, they should have beat TCU. It's like the way they were treated was not the way that they're being treated now, which is fascinating. Before we talk about the Nebraska game, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets, guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Okay, to close out the show, they're facing Nebraska, first home game of the Coach Prime era. Raymond's going to be in attendance. My intern Griffin is going to be in attendance. Nebraska comes in, which people don't realize. Colorado Nebraska is one of the bigger rivalries in college football. That's kind of like an underrated rivalry, if you will. They have history going all the way back to the Big 8 and all that. What do you think is well, let me interrupt you before you even answer, even though I didn't even finish my question. Colorado went from being touchdown underdogs to now they're about 5-ish, 3 to 5 point favorites, depending on where you get your odds. They're favored over Nebraska now after their first loss to Minnesota. How do you think this game is going to play out now that we've seen Colorado and what they are?
I think it's going to be another shootout. I think Nebraska's offense looked really bad last week, but they were going against a really solid Minnesota defense. And so Big Ten offenses, even though they're not all that entertaining except for maybe Ohio State and sometimes Michigan, they do really have stout defenses. Nebraska's, it was a little tougher to tell because Minnesota, they lost top players on offense. So it was tough to tell if Minnesota's offense is bad or if Nebraska's defense was solid. But at the same time, regardless of what Nebraska's defense looks like, Colorado's skill players, they did enough last week to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they have another monster game. I think the thing that really sets Colorado apart is the way Sean Lewis game planned for TCU. He picked them apart. Their secondary and their corners, they were playing off and they attacked them with short routes. And then when they were like, okay, well, we can't keep playing like this, and they got closer, they were like, okay, we're just going to send our skill players deep. And there were a couple ones that they should have got burnt on, but the deep ball didn't get completed. And there's no reason to believe that Colorado is not going to do that same thing. I think the major threat that Colorado has to worry about is Jeff Sims' running ability as a passer. I don't know if he's that much of a threat, especially because I think Colorado's secondary, they've kind of been overlooked with the performance they had in week 1. They did a really good job.
Right.
The crossing routes, I think, shook them up, and I think that's just a new team trying to mesh, and they're all trying to do this on the fly in week 1. But their secondary, they had great ball skills. And so I don't worry about them too much. You'd think Jeff Sims would avoid Travis Hunter, which really limits what they're able to do in the passing game. I mean, maybe he won't. Chandler Morris
didn't get the memo.
He didn't learn that lesson. He kept trying them even after the interception. So we'll see what happens there. But as long as they could limit Jeff Sims from running, because that type of dual threat ability is enough to beat you. All it takes is him to rip off some long runs and flip the field. But as long as they limit that, I think Colorado, their offense is just going to maybe not do what it did last week. I'd like to think that Nebraska's defense is a little better. But at the same time, going into the game last week, all anyone was talking about was Josh Newton and how he was going to be able to shut down the Colorado passing game. And Shedeur Sanders went at him. Like
500 yards, 80%.
like he just attacked him like he wasn't even worried about him. So I think Colorado wins this one. I think it is on the high scoring end. Maybe not as high as last game. I think maybe let's go Colorado wins 31-28.
Okay.
Like that's comfortable. Maybe that's too low of a score. It just depends on what they're able to do with stopping Jeff Sims.
Yeah, I think stopping Jeff Sims will be interesting because Chandler Morris, which I feel like TCU kind of realized it too late that they could have like just ran whenever they wanted. Because I don't know if there was fatigue or maybe they just weren't kind of just getting into the rush lanes that they need to get into. It just was not working out for Colorado. And once TCU started running the ball, it was getting a little worrisome. And they were doing it fast too. I think the worst part was it wasn't like they're like Nebraska's probably going to run a couple plays, reload, slow things down, which I think will be interesting to see how Colorado counters. But TCU, I think once they realized that they could go fast and run the ball, they were kind of in gear. But I think heading into this game, I think Colorado's offense is just probably one of the better offenses in college football right now. This isn't me overreacting. When your quarterback throws for over 500 yards and completes 80% of his passes, I think there's a lot of room for praise right there. And so I think Colorado's probably top 25 offense right now. I think they're probably higher, but we'll just say top 25 minimum. And I think they beat Nebraska by a couple scores. I don't trust Jeff Sims as a passer. As a runner, he's a great athlete. He knows what he's doing when he's running the ball. I've been doubting his decision-making since he was at Nebraska, not because he went to Nebraska, just because people are like, oh, he's a new and improved Jeff Sims. And I said, until I see him go out there and not make like the one interception that he threw in the end zone, I think it was like quadruple coverage. I think the Minnesota Gophers could have rock, paper, scissors to see who got the interception. There were so many guys in the end zone. So until he proves that he's not going to make those costly errors, which Colorado's secondary was, like you said, locked down. Amarion Cooper didn't give up a catch. Travis Hunter, diving interceptions, broke up a touchdown. I think he saved 2 or 3 touchdowns alone by himself. And so until Jeff Sims can kind of show that he's capable of not making costly errors, I don't trust him. So I think if I had to give a score prediction, I'd probably go Colorado 38, Nebraska probably like 21. I think it maybe gets a little out of hand after a couple turnovers. And I think if you let Colorado get their swagger, if you let them get their confidence built up, I think that's a horrible position to be in if you're Nebraska. What is this? If Colorado starts off 2-0 and Nebraska's 0-2, what is the hype around each program or the energy around each program? Obviously, there won't be hype around Nebraska.
I think on Nebraska side of things, I'll start with them. I think they're going to be extremely worried that, not anything against Matt Rule, but I think when you look at all the coaches who hired a first-year coach, each of them probably had an opportunity to hire Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. If Nebraska comes calling to Coach Prime, he's going to turn down a Big Ten offer when he has the opportunity to build this roster. But they didn't call him. It's Colorado that did, and I think they'll never admit it. But I think they'll secretly be wishing, like, oh, wow, maybe we should have, maybe Coach Prime is who we wanted to lead this program. I don't know if he's as good of a fit as he is with Colorado. I think Colorado was the perfect spot for him because you don't have to worry about like all of the boosters and all of the outside pressure. You're just able to come in and do your job. I think for Colorado, this skyrockets. You start 2-0. You have, I think, Colorado State next. That's 3-0. You don't want to overlook them, And the way his team is focused, I doubt that they would. And then I believe you have Oregon next.
Right.
And so going into that Oregon game, for one, it's a legit possibility that College Game Day goes to Eugene. If you beat Oregon, then USC is next. Right. College Game Day will certainly be that might be the biggest game, maybe not of the year in terms of like college football playoff stakes, but you have Caleb Williams, who is just this freak of a quarterback. On the other side, you have Shedeur Sanders, and you have Travis Hunter. That's huge. That's
a lot of star power.
Yeah, that's box office. So I think Colorado with a win, with that environment, it only continues to boost them. I think the hype that's coming after the TCU win, it will be nothing compared to if Colorado wins on Saturday in front of their home crowd with what that setting is going to look like, with the energy, with the emotions. I think that one will really feel like the arrival of the Coach Prime era, even more than the TCU one, because then what can the doubters say?
Right.
Like, you can say, oh, they're not going to beat Oregon or they're not going to beat USC. Well, no one was predicting them to ahead of the season. Like, these are two teams that are competing for a college football playoff spot. And then if they go and beat those schools, Pac-12 is bad or this and that. So the doubters will always have something to say, but it becomes a lot. I mean, it's not credible already, but it becomes a lot less credible if they beat Colorado or if they beat Nebraska. So
yep,
it'll be crazy if they win that one too, because
that game's gonna be a wild game. People don't realize how big a rivalry it is. There's gonna be I don't know if there's gonna be a lot of red in the stadium. Actually, I think Colorado fans are so energized that they maybe are gonna try to buy out all the tickets and make sure Nebraska fans don't get in there. But it's going to be a huge game regardless. We'll have you covered here on Locked On Buffs. I will have an episode. I might go live, or I'm going to record it right after the game, so you guys should come check that out. Raymond will be in attendance. We'll have him maybe hop in and talk about what he saw. But it's going to be huge. Colorado 1-0, knocked off number 17 TCU. By the time that this episode is done recording, they're going to be a ranked team, which would be probably the first time since, I believe, 2016-ish, or maybe during the COVID year, probably during the COVID year when they went 4-2. But wow, Colorado football, it's a new state of the program. Coach Prime is here. As we talked about earlier, program should be afraid. Don't let him build his swagger, because once his confidence keeps building, it's not going to go well for you. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs. I'm Kevin Borba. He's Raymond Lucas Jr. You can find his work over at 24/7 Sports, and you can see his social media handle under his name there, at Raymond Lucas Jr. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. You guys have a great day.